Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to first recognize our team here today. My permanent secretary, Mr. Warren Jones, Dr. Llewellyn Simmons, and the rest of our team from the Ministry of Education. I'd like to acknowledge and with great delight have our Commissioner of Education, Dr. Edmund Heatley, here today as we begin our first report on the Cambridge results for 2012-2013. I'm pleased, ladies and gentlemen, to mark this year's third year of administering the Cambridge International Examinations across the system of primary, middle, and senior school in English, math, and science. Before I share the highlights and the Commissioner will provide some of the details behind the results, I remind you of the following performance measures we published in the government budget book as specific target outcomes for the Bermuda Public School System. These were taken from the Blueprint for Reform in Education, and we have committed to meeting these by 2015. We have targeted that 90% of students will graduate with a grade point average of a 2.0, which equates to 70% or better. 80% of examinees will achieve the International General Certificate of Secondary Education, known as the IGCSE. 80% of examinees will achieve a score at or above 3 on a 6-point Cambridge scale in a primary 6 checkpoint. 80% of examinees will achieve a score at or above 3.0 on a 6-point Cambridge scale in a middle school 3 checkpoint. Graduation. The Bermuda Public School System exceeded the performance indicator of 90% of students graduating with a grade point average of 2.0 or equivalent of 70% or better. 96% of the senior school S4 cohort of 227 students graduated with a grade point average of 2.0 or higher, a 2% increase over 2011-2012. 88% of the senior school students S1 cohort of 247 students who started senior school in 2009 graduated with a GPA of 2.0 or better. 217 students graduated with a Bermuda High School certificate, 94 males, 123 females. 20 students graduated with honors, a 3.2 or 82% or higher in the GPA, representing 9% of our S4 cohort, 3 males, 17 females. The International General Certificate of Education, the IGCSE, the Bermuda Public School System exceeded the performance indicator of 80% of examinees achieving the IGCSE. 91% or 1,090 students of 1,204 schools reported attained passing grades of an A to G, a 2% increase over 2011-2012. 28% or 336 of the 1,204 students reported attained passing grades of an A to C, the same percentage as in 2011-2012. 78 scores were reported by middle school students, representing 68% attaining passing grades of A to G and 41% attaining grades of A to C. It should be noted the additional external examinations in a total of 9 subjects were taken from other external boards. Cambridge International has a 6-point scale for the reporting of checkpoint results, while Cambridge considers a score of 2 as students achieving a basic understanding of curriculum content and would benefit from more focus on some areas of the curriculum. The Bermuda Public School System has a target that 80% of students will achieve a target of 3 or above. Cambridge checkpoint results for middle schools. The Bermuda Public School System did not exceed the performance indicator of 80% of examinees achieving a score at or above 3.0 on a 6-point scale in M3. 23% of examinees achieved a 3 or above in English. 61% achieved a 2 or above. 27% of examinees achieved a 3 or above in math. 37% achieved a 2 or above. 49% achieved a 3 or above in science. 86 achieved a 2 or above. We have students who have, in the middle school and senior school level 1, been accelerated by using already passed their IGCSEs with an A to C grade. The Cambridge Checkpoint Examination at P6 and M3 is used as an indicator of student performance as they progress through the system. The Cambridge says that A2 is a basic understanding which we use. In moving to the primary checkpoint, the Bermuda Public School System did not exceed the performance indicator of 80% of examinees achieving a score at or above 3 on a 6-point scale. 61% of examinees achieved a 3.0 in English. 85% achieved a 2 or higher. 45% of examinees achieved a 3 or above in math. 61% achieved a 2 or higher. 62% achieved a 3 or above in science. 86% achieved a 2 or higher. Here are the takeaways I want to leave with you. Bermuda is the only public school system that requires all students to sit the IGCSE. Graduation results. We exceeded the performance target of 90% of students achieving a GPA, the equivalent of 70% or higher. The IGCSE results, we exceeded our target of 80% of students achieving the IGCSE, but have work to do in order to raise the percentage of students achieving A to C. I will now turn over this press conference to Dr. Heatley, who will give more details. Dr. Heatley.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. You've heard the highlights, so it's my responsibility now to put some meat on the bones when it comes around graduation and our test scores. So, as the Premier said, 96% graduation rate, 2.0 or higher. We think that's impressive, but we're not satisfied with that. We know we still have work to do. We even looked at our S1 cohort, and we think that's important because the number of students that start S1 together, we want to make sure that 4 years later they're graduating at the same time. And although we had a little dip, we went from 96 to 88. We think it's important for everybody to see what we're trying to accomplish here in the ministry. The next slide you see is the strategy. We pulled this right from the blueprint, and we think that's important. We want to be as open and as transparent as we possibly can. And what we said we would do, we will do. We are managing the educational process. We are looking at the data. We are trying to ensure that those things we do right currently, we continue to do right. Those things that we aren't doing right, we are dissecting those, trying to figure out how to fix those and put those back in without uprooting everything else that we're currently doing. And so we move into where we are, now we're moving into where we're going. So the Cambridge says, and we pulled this right off of Cambridge because we, again, in the sense of being transparent, we want you to see what Cambridge is saying about the curriculum. Excuse me. We move on, we want to show you the data. As the minister said, we're excited about the work we're doing around the IGCSE. We're not satisfied, but we want to show you that in English, A through G's shows you our comparison to 2012 and 2013. You'll see some slight gains in English, both the A through G as well as the A through C. The same thing in math, you'll see gains both in A through G and A through C. Unfortunately, we had a little dip in science. Again, that's one of those ones we go back in, we kind of dissect what we fell back on, fix it, and put it right back in so everything continues to move. The next slide you see is by subject. The minister talked about not only did we do English, math, and science, there were 9 actual different exams that students sat for. So this slide, we wanted to show you how all the students who sat for exams did. And so you see both A through G, which is the darker blue, and the A through C, which is the lighter blue. And again, 96%, for example, in English, with a 39.7% in A through C. Again, we're excited, but we're not satisfied. The next thing we wanted to do is I wanted to highlight a comment that the minister made about our younger students who didn't have to sit for the exam, taking the initiative and stepping up. And so when you look at our M2, our M3, and even our S1 students taking the exam, we had one M2 student who took it, and that student scored an A through G, already saying that they're meeting that certain standard. The M3 students, 77 took it, 52, which is 67%, have already scored A through G. More importantly, 41.6% have already scored an A through C. To me, this is impressive. They are stepping up. And if we can continue to get these numbers and these types of students stepping up, it's going to force us to do a better job. As we raise the floor, we also have to raise the ceiling, thus leaving none of our children outside of the loop. Again, if you look at our S2s, which is the test is for, 91.5% of the 828 students scored A through G, and 25.4 scored A through C. The next slide we think is important because we want to make sure that on the scale of 1 to 6, some people have asked the question, what does a 2 mean? What does a 3 mean? What does the 6 mean? We want to simply depict that the 2 is where Cambridge says if you're at a 2 at your P6 checkpoint or your M3 checkpoint, you are making outstanding progress towards reaching that goal of scoring A through C when you take the CSEs. The 3 is where we have said that our students will score. The 6 is the highest that you can get. So we wanted to make sure that now you understand what we talk about when we say pass the checkpoint with a 2, with a 3. And please do not forget, we already have students scoring 5 and 6s on the checkpoints. So we are very excited about them as well. The next slide, next couple slides I'm going to show you is just a depiction for our M3 students. We're going to show you Bermuda compared against the world. And again, as the minister said, we are the only system that require all of our students to sit for the exam. So here we have M3, English, math, and science from left to right. The world is at 2.7, Bermuda is at 2.2. In math, the world is about 4, we're about 2.2. In science, 4.1 for them, 2.9 for us. Now, keep in mind, and someone say, well, you got a lot of work to do. We know that. We accept that. But what we also accept is it's the entire system is taking the test. We don't pick certain students to sit for the exam. Everybody in our system takes the exam. And then our P6, English, math, and science, 3.6 compared to a 3.3 for us in Bermuda, 4.1, 2.7, 4.2 to 3.3. So you now have a glimpse into the data. The minister provided you with the highlights. Hopefully I've given you enough detail that you understand the highlights and where we are around graduation, where we are around our checkpoints and our IG CSEs. And the minister and I, with his permission, we're ready to answer any questions you may have.
Yes. Members of the media, we will send the PowerPoint presentation to the 2-3 slides. So we can ask questions, please, into the microphone. First caller, Jonathan.
So, Dr. Healy, you took a bit of flack recently in the House of Assembly from one of our MPs where he was questioned at some length how somebody from the U.S. would be able to grapple with the Cambridge system. Would you be able to, being as it's a British system, that is,
Okay.
would you be able to give us a bit on how you came up to speed with the system here?
It's a very simple answer. I got an awesome team. They made sure I was ready. There's a lot of reading we've done. There's a lot of conversations we've had. There's a lot of meetings we've had. The thing we understand is a standard, no matter how it's written. And if we educate students from where they are to where we want them to get, it doesn't matter where you come from, keep students in the center, the answer will be just fine. So we think we're doing okay. Still have work to do, but we'll get stronger each day.
Dr. Healy, going on to where you come from, it's my understanding that in past jurisdictions, you have a reputation for trimming budgets. Is the Bermuda education budget in your crosshairs?
at this time, and I apologize for laughing. I've never had it couched as trimming budget, so I appreciate that. It's not in my crosshairs right now. What is in my crosshairs is student achievement. We know that we have a system. We need to make sure we have clear expectations, clear expected outcomes, making sure that our teachers and staff members are professionally developed to deliver that, and then we'll provide a great opportunity. As far as the budget, I've got a minister, I've got a permanent secretary. I'm going to slide that to them right now, but I'm going to try to do my best and reorganize and organize the department to provide the best education possible.
Charles?
Yes, sir.
One of the things I know that you recognize is our role is to work as a team. And the PS, as well as myself, we work in conjunction with the commissioner so that he has the tools that he needs to get the job done. So the issue of potential trimming budgets or budgets at all, not in the conversation at this time.
Hello, Bermuda Sun. I'd like to ask whether the discrepancy between the males and females in terms of graduation rates concerns you, and whether you have any policies in place to address that.
I'll take the latter first. We don't have any policies in place right now. What we are putting in place is the expectation. We expect all of our students to achieve at high levels. The fact that only 3 of our males were honor graduates and 17 of our females, we're very excited for our young ladies. But we understand we need to do more for our young men, and we will do that.
Good afternoon. I'm Carla Zhu. Question, as a parent, because I have a daughter in middle school, and she's an IGSC student, but to be frank, what's going wrong in middle school?
That's
If
mine.
Yes,
Would you
sir.
like to do it?
No, go ahead, sir.
The weakness in our system has been found to be the quality of teaching, specifically within the middle school system. We have found that our performance in primary has been high. Even in our senior schools, it has improved significantly. The transformation, if you recall from the press conference we did in March, when Commissioner McDonald spoke to it, the plan was to direct the transformation of middle schools. A team was designed to do that. That process has begun, and the commissioner has been updated. I just jumped in front of him.
So, but then what happens to those students? Because she's already expressing frustration with children who are not on par, for example. So to parents of middle school students, what reassurance do you give them that their children are getting a quality education?
And if I may, Minister, I'll jump back in. We understand the parent's concern. A couple things I want the parent to do, and parents, if you're listening, first thing I want you to do is have a conversation with your student's teacher, because currently we do have the ability to provide a world-class education. The issue that we have right now is making sure that the foundation that we build this house on is a solid foundation. And yes, we're very excited about the work that our primary schools are doing. We're going to ask them to do a little more. We're going to ask our middle schools to do a little more. We're actually going to provide the training needed to ensure that the middle school teachers and staff members are able to provide that world-class education that we're thriving for them to get. So what I want to say to parents, again, we understand your concern. We understand the issues that we're dealing with. The biggest thing the parents can do for us is to show up at the schools. We need them to be involved. Please keep in mind that every time any adult, mom, dad, or anybody else comes to the school, everybody steps up a little higher. Pants come up, shoulders get a little straighter, the conversations change. The work in the classroom gets a little more focused on the rationale and what's being taught in the classroom. So we are very clear on the concerns of parents. We are very clear on what our expectations are and what our deliverables have to be. We're even more clear on the path that we have to take to ensure that all our instructors are professionally developed to make sure they can provide that. Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else?
I have LaVarn Purvis from the Workers' Voice. I have 3 questions. Considering, Minister, that you talked about the quality of teaching in the middle schools, have you discussed this with the BUT and asked for, an upgrade in the teacher? I mean, are you saying that the teachers are not doing their job in the middle school?
No.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Yes, sir.
I'll let you jump in
Yes, sir.
afterwards. The continuum of conversation between the ministry and the BUT is a regular one. The minister does not insert himself into those discussions. The status of the quality of teaching and student achievement is something both the BUT and the ministry share, and they are working together to improve both the quality of teaching, but more importantly, student outcome. If the conversation becomes about just teaching, then we are not focused on the student's outcome, and that's where our center of our focus is. So to answer your question, there is a continual communication on a monthly basis between the ministry as well as teachers in the BUT to ensure that we get the quality up across the board.
Okay. My second question is the GCSE that you use it for science, math, and English. What standard do you use for other subjects?
You want to take that?
Yes, sir. Ma'am, actually, we sat students for several exams, but you're absolutely right. The focus has been math, English, and science, and we still use Cambridge standards for all the other subjects, and we do have students sitting for those exams. We intend to increase the number of students sitting for those exams and also increase the number of exams that they're sitting for, but we have Cambridge standards for all the courses.
For all subjects,
Yes, ma'am.
Cambridge? Okay. And my last question is, it appears that the ministry to date, looking at the results, et cetera, have done a reasonably good job according to this. Why did you feel the need, Minister, to go overseas to for a commission of education rather than one of these brilliant people that are already in the ministry? Thank you.
Thank you. The matter of the search for the Commission of Education does not fall under the remit of the legislature. That comes under the remit of the Public Service Commission. As such, the minister was never involved from day one. The minister was not involved even when the selection was made. I have to, as a member of the legislature, understand my role, my remit, and as it came to the Public Service Commission, that was a matter for the government through the Cabinet Office and indeed the Public Service Commission to deal with. I have dealt with it, and I'm not getting involved with it. I have accepted the selection choice because the panel who made the selection are outstanding Bermudians. They were responsible for vetting all the applicants, and their final decision I respect.
So you're saying that it was the Public Service Commission that decided that Bermuda should have a non-Bermudian Commission of Education?
No, let me correct that. The Board of Education has the remit on it. The Board of Education is in coordination with the Public Service Commission. It is the members of the Board of Education who are the selection panel who did the interviews.
Yes, sir,
It was the Board of Education that made the decision to.
They made the final. They made a recommendation on who the successful candidate was going to be. There was not.
I'm trying to find out not who the successful candidates. What I'm trying to find out who made the decision to go overseas as opposed to hire someone from within the ministry.
Okay. The advertising. Right. The advertising for the post was done both locally and overseas, as has been practiced for the last two commissioners. That hasn't changed.
So you're saying that Bermudians were interviewed for the post?
The application process included Bermudians and non-Bermudians.
So were any Bermudians interviewed for the post?
Because I wasn't involved with that, I can't really speak to it. As I said, that was a matter was dealt between the board and the Public Service Commission.
One more question,
Dr. Healy,
Yes, sir.
have you set a goal? Have you set a goal, and how long do you think it would take to bring the standards up to the rest of the world? In the statistics you just shared.
You'll get to know me very quickly. My goal is like yesterday. We don't have any time to waste, but in realistic terms, we're looking at between about 12 to 18 months because we're doing probably about 50 different things at the same time, making sure we got the right people in the right place, making sure that the job descriptions are there, making sure we understand the data. We're working with Cambridge on early identification of at-risk students, early interventions with our at-risk students, making sure that people know how to read the data, disaggregate the data, analyze it, put it back in so we can do some reteaching, and I'm not trying to cloud it. So about 12 to 18 months, we want to see marked improvement, but we expect to see improvement every day. Our goal is to be better tomorrow than we were today.
What are you going to do that has been different, that's not been done so far? What are you bringing to the table to change the statistics?
And that's probably the easiest question anybody's asked me today, so thank you for that. I'm going to bring me. What I do is I build teams. We have very courageous, dignified, and respectful conversations. We set clear expectations, and we hold people accountable for doing their job. We make sure that people have the training, the skills, and the ability to do their jobs. We try to put them in the right place to make sure everybody is successful, because if they're successful, our young people are successful. We will definitely do succession planning. Part of that succession planning is to making sure everybody knows what duties and responsibilities are above them and beside them. That's what we will do.